Much as we've daydreamed about moving into Cinderella Castle, we can't stay at Walt Disney World forever. Today we're talking through length of stay considerations for our Disney vacations.
Welcome to Always Planning Disney, where planning is half the fun. I'm Melissa.
And I'm Cheryl.
And on this channel, we talk through all of the details that go into making our vacations magical. So length of stay is something that we've talked a little bit about in the past because you have to decide it right away. When you pick your dates and reserve your room, you need a check-in and check-out date. It's one of the first things they ask for. And so I know we have always treated a week, 5, 7, 8 days as the typical ideal Disney World stay. And I think this is common for a lot of people. It feels like it's the standard. It takes a long time to get there. There's a lot of things to do once you're there, but I don't want to book a week automatically just because it's our norm. I wanted to think this through. So I'm coming in with 3 points of consideration: price, the number of days that we want in each park, and how much downtime we're looking for.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. And related to that is what type of trip you want to have and what you want your days to look like. And that's going to kind of inform and be informed by those factors that you have. So we want to have a more relaxing trip, but at the same time, we don't want to miss our favorites. And we've been going to Disney for a while, so we have a lot of favorites at this point. And then we also just feel due for a splurge after what the past 2 years have been for all of us. So that's what we're looking at. And we don't plan to visit the parks on our travel days. We want plenty of time in the parks, and we also need at least one rest day. So that's all going to figure in.
So I started with price. A shorter trip is going to be cheaper, even though you get discounts for adding park days. Once you have like a 2-day ticket, you still are going to be paying the same hotel rate, and staying off-site is just not an option for us. So we're paying those Disney prices for the hotels for the entire trip. I ran some numbers using just a random week in May, and our typical 7-day, 6-night stay at Pop Century for 2 adults, 2 kids, but really 3 Disney adults and 1 child, it came out to $3,544.24 if we get park passes for all 6 days. And if we knock it down to just a 5-day park ticket instead, building in a rest day in the middle, it only dropped the price less than $100. And that's just not worth the savings for me. I would rather have that extra park day, maybe hop in for a little while, a little half day. So we have half rest, half park. But if I take that long trip and I shave it down to 5 days, 4 nights with 4 park days, the total is $2,812.93, which is a $700 savings. It's way more substantial. That will buy a lot of food. But by the time I'm ready to go to Disney, sometimes I feel like just take my $700. Like there's no such thing as savings.
Yeah, that's how they get you. So those additional days on your park tickets are much cheaper as you continue to add them, right? It's like, oh, well, it only costs a few dollars more to just add another park day. But you still have to factor in things like the cost of your additional nights in the hotel, the food that you're going to eat, and the Disney prices for that food, time off work. All of that stuff stays the same. You don't get a discount for staying longer in that regard. So yeah, it's dangerous territory there.
So when it comes to price, I don't know if the shorter trip would really be worth it for us, because once we're spending money, or at least once I spend money, I'm just spending money. So maybe it's not as large of a factor as I thought it was. However, the number of days we want to spend in each park is a big deal. Magic Kingdom is a 2-day park for us, no questions asked. That's pretty common. I prefer a full day plus in Epcot, 1.5 days, a full day, some evenings. And then Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios, I'm fine with a half day in either of those. So when we have done short trips, like 3.5-day park trips in the past, we used Park Hopper to ensure that we were able to mix and match our days, get everything we wanted, and we felt very satisfied with that short trip. However, at the time, my kids were smaller, and so the list of what we could do and our list of must-dos was way shorter. And so we've also done 5.5 park day trips, and we were left wanting more. So I did some thinking. If I'm going to have 2 days at Magic Kingdom, 1 solid Epcot day, half day Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios, but not on the same day. Like, let's get some breaks in there. I'm going to need 5 days, and I'm still splurging for Park Hopper on top of that. I don't know if I could do fewer than 5 park days right now, unless Disney was sort of an add-on to something else. Like I was going to be in Orlando for, I have no idea what else I'd be there for. But if I was, maybe I could hop in for one day. But if we're going there, I'm going to need 5 days.
Yeah, look, ideally we'd have 2 days in each park. We'd have our travel days and we'd have a rest day or two, right? But that makes for a really long trip and that's hard to make it work. I also think that we're planning to handle our itinerary and our park hopping a little bit differently this time. So we're not planning on doing like a full day at just one park. We're also not planning on doing what we did last trip, where we had a morning in one park, an afternoon in another, with a nap in between. We're going to do it a little bit differently. So we're hoping to stay at the boardwalk next trip, and that's walking distance to both Epcot and Hollywood Studios. And so we're thinking we might spend a lot of our evenings in Epcot and maybe not schedule an official Epcot day that we would get, park reservations for. And then that would minimize the park closed transportation issues that I desperately want to avoid. So if Animal Kingdom no longer has a nighttime show, it doesn't right now. I haven't heard anything about bringing one back. So if they still don't have one, we would only need to worry about transportation back from Magic Kingdom when we go and see the fireworks there. And even that would maybe be easier with extended park hours. I'm not sure what bus transportation looks like for the deluxe resorts that have that extended park hour time. I don't know if it kind of splits people up, I would think, whereas you might have a first wave leaving right after the fireworks and then a second wave leaving at the end of those extended park hours. So anyway, that's something that we're considering for next trip, is really ending most of our days at Epcot and then just walking back to our resort, which sounds so amazing to me.
That is a beautiful plan, because we are also eyeing Boardwalk, and then I would definitely get that Epcot fill, getting to be there so many times throughout the trip. So after price and ideal number of days in each park, we're also considering downtime. We've talked a lot about rest days, but I think in my group, we're going to end up with just half-day rest days, half a day of downtime. We really like to be in the park, and I don't know if we could fill a whole day outside of it without itching to get back into one. So it's a good thing that adding an extra park ticket is so cheap, because we're going to want to be in that park. I feel like our downtime is going to end up being half days scattered throughout the trip.
I can't decide. I'm really struggling with this, whether I should add that extra day to our tickets just in case we want to, like you say, just pop in for a little bit, especially staying right there in the Epcot area. Maybe we want to pop in for dinner or pop in for a drink or whatever. Or my other thought is maybe I don't pay for that extra day, even though it's not a big cost, and force us to stay out of the parks on our rest day, because we all want to enjoy our resort's amenities. We want to do some resort hopping and check out a few other resorts. We want to spend a little more time at Disney Springs this trip. So I might just not buy that extra day on the ticket at all. But I think I'll probably wait and see what our flights end up being and if there would be the potential of wanting to pop in there. And so then maybe I get one day on top of our planned days that we could use either on a travel day or on our rest day. So I don't know, I'm still thinking about what exactly that'll look like. But another thing that we're potentially doing differently is that we all want some space to just be a little more spontaneous, relax more, and just feel like it's a more chill trip. And so we're planning to only be in each day's park until about 3 p.m. And then from there, leave our evenings fairly open so that we could hit the pool, we could take a quick nap, and then we could just kind of see what we're in the mood for the evening and go from there. Just go where our heart takes us. So I think we'll plan in a few of the nighttime shows just to make sure that we do get to hit those. Maybe we'll make some dinner reservations here and there. But even so, I think we should have at least a few hours that are completely open each afternoon, and we can just go where we want to, which sounds very lovely.
Yeah. We do a lot of spontaneous decision making once we get down to Disney, for all the planning that goes in ahead of time. And as you were talking, it occurred to me that we really are nighttime people. So it is entirely possible that if they are still doing special evening events, we might get those tickets instead of park tickets on a couple days, because, well, we stay up late. We really like the parks at night. And I know we could get a lot done in those 4 hours and then still have an entire day to relax beforehand.
Yeah, I'll be interested to watch and see if they're adding in more and more of those. Are they going to be able to fit in some other events that aren't necessarily associated with the holidays. Like, is Villains After Hours going to come back? Because that would be really cool. So I'll be interested to see what Disney does. But Disney has thrown a few curveballs our way when it comes to figuring out how long is going to be adequate for a Disney vacation. And I'm struggling a bit with these as well, just because they're things I haven't experienced before. So I'm not sure how much of an impact they're going to have on our trip. And I'm just watching the vloggers and trying to figure it out through them. So the first thing is this extra time that we'll have in the park. And on-property guests have always had a bit of extra time, aside from right after the closure, when I don't think they got anything. But for the most part, there's been some sort of early park entry or extended park hours in the trips that we've taken in the past. But right now it looks a little bit different. So there's early park entry, which is 30 minutes at every park every day for all Disney Resort and Good Neighbor guests. So that's a lot more flexible than it was in the past. It used to be that just one park a day would open maybe an hour early or something like that. And so all of the Disney Resort guests would go to that park. Well, now it's spread out and it's wherever you want to go. So that functions differently. And then the other thing that's new is extended park hours. So that's 2 hours at either Magic Kingdom or Epcot. And those are select days, like you said. So it's up to Disney's discretion when those days are. And those are only for deluxe resort guests. So that's not for everybody on property. That's only certain hotel guests that get them. So I think both of these things are going to give us some great extra time to get some rides in. And I think especially the extended park hours are going to be really useful and could really reduce the amount of park time we need, because 2 hours, like, that's a lot of time with not very many people in the park, especially since we're going during a quieter time of year. I could see being able to knock out a lot of rides in those 2 hours. And I mean, on the flip side, we're willing to rope drop and get in there for that 30 minutes in the morning, most mornings of our trip. So that's very appealing as well. But I just don't know like how much of an impact that's going to have and how to figure that into our length of stay.
Yeah, well, as we've talked about, the early park entry may not work for us unless it happens to be a park that opens a little bit later, because we are so slow to wake up and get moving in the morning. But those 2 hours at deluxe resorts, that's really one of the things that's pulling us to rent DVC points, because 2 hours is a lot of time and we can get a lot done then. I know just with an extra hour at night, we've been able to get on and off rides in 10 minutes, like ones that usually have incredibly long waits during the day. I also know that in that extra hour, I one time was stuck. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I was stuck at the shooting range in Frontierland for the entire extra hour because that's what my son wanted to do. So didn't get a lot done then, but I'm excited for the extra hours at night. I think it will help make it easier to get more in so I can stick to that 5-day trip, if that's what we end up going with.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky. So we'll have to see how that looks. But I think it's very promising. Mm-hmm. The other curveball, and I'm sorry, you're going to be mad at me for bringing this up, but is Genie Plus and fancy rides. Mm-hmm. So it's annoying that we have to pay for these things now. They used to be free with, I can't even remember what it's called now, Fast Pass. They used to be free with Fast Pass, and now they cost a lot more money. But they cost a lot less than additional nights in the hotel or meals on property. So I ran some numbers for you in your 4 park day scenario, just so we could see what this looks like, since that's kind of the hypothetical that we were working with. So in your 4 park day scenario, you could buy Genie Plus on all 4 days and book all the fancy rides for your party of 4 and this is approximate because the fancy rides have surge pricing. So I just picked a middle ground number of $10 a ride and doing all of them. You could do all of that for your party for less than $600. Now that eats into a lot of your $700 hotel and ticket savings, right? Over your longer trip. But you probably wouldn't buy every single individual attraction selection. And you'd also be saving quite a bit of money on food by shortening your trip. So I think it's something to consider for sure, especially for folks living in the US where we just don't have a lot of vacation time to work with compared to our European friends. So like if you're looking at, wow, I only have a few weeks to work with each year, and trying to maximize your trip while minimizing the amount of PTO you have to take, I think it's an option.
So when you put it that way, it makes Genie Plus and the fancy rides look a little bit better, because I think because it is a single dollar amount instead of that like consistent nickel and diming that you see every single day. And when I was playing with numbers for these trips, I noticed you can pre-purchase it, which of course you'd be able to. I don't know why it didn't occur to me. And so when it's that $1 amount, it's a lot easier. And also, if you are going to put out that $600, you know that you're going to be getting the rides that you probably really want to go on. You're going to be getting your flight of passage. So that's a possibility. I have to see, I have to learn, I have to watch more of the Genie Plus, because I have seen some things where it's hard to get on, you know, to get your pass for that ride, whereas your fast passes, you could do it so far in advance that you knew what you had. But I'm going to keep that in mind. That could be another way we could shorten the trip by a day.
Just a thought. And yeah, I think there's a lot of new strategizing to learn. Whereas like with FastPass, we kind of had it figured out. now there's a lot of new strategizing. I think it's going to work differently at different times of year. Whereas with FastPass, like you say, you knew, what was it, 60, 180, like a lot of days out from your trip, you know you're going to be getting on those favorite rides because you already booked those fast passes. Whereas this, even if you've already booked Genie Plus for your trip, you still don't know that you're going to get on. If it's a Genie Plus and not a fancy ride, you don't know for sure that you're getting on that ride until the day of. You probably are, especially if that's like your one ride, you've got to get on it and you book it first thing in the morning, you're probably getting on it, but still it's not as guaranteed, and that makes me a little uncomfortable with it, but I do think it's a way to shorten the trip. Yeah.
And it was such a comfort having your dining reservations and then a month later booking your fast passes and knowing exactly when those sit down meals were. And I don't know, I think I have too much anxiety for this sort of new type of planning that we have to do. But when it comes to that day count, I'm just a little bit too far away to know for sure what we're going to end up doing. But it looks like we're going to need a full week. Is that the 5, 6, 7, 8 days? When we sat down to talk about the hypothetical anniversary and holiday trips, and also when we looked back to when I took a baby into the parks, I thought that we would really be cool with just a short, affordable 3-day jaunt in and out of Disney World. But you know, Disney is not a once in a lifetime for us, but it's still a really big trip. It takes a long time to get there. We're going to need the week, so it's going to be a full week. Exact day count yet to be determined, but it's a week. That's what wins for us.
Yeah, we could be happy with a 6-day trip, but we really want something longer, like post-pandemic. Well, our son is still pretty young. He'll be in kindergarten during this trip, so it feels a little better to be pulling him out of school for a longer trip. I still have mom guilt about it, and I think I'm gonna feel that way until I actually talk to his teacher. But yeah, we want a longer trip. So right now our group is currently deciding between 9 and 10 days, and that would be 2 travel days, a rest day, and 6 or 7 park days. People are really pushing for the longer 10-day trip, so I have a feeling that's where we're gonna land, but to be determined. Yeah, we want to stay for a while. We want to have a good time. We want to splurge. It's been a long pandemic.
Make it 11 days. We don't have to stop at 10.
Sure. Yeah, I'm moving in. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let us know in the comments what your ideal length of stay for a Disney vacation is. And remember to like and subscribe to plan along with us.